Chapter 6. Garder la Reine. I hope I said that correctly. Oh hey! This background, it's been a while. I'm just saying that a revamp of the approach is needed, and you can't always wait for someone else to do it. I don't see a problem with presenting some ideas to the council.
It's not that I disagree with you, but this kind of change is hard. It's not like people haven't suggested changes before. And I know your goal is to get them to rethink your situation.
That's not wrong, but it's not only about me. I've been thinking about how problems have a way of exploding when you ignore them for too long. New Terra is the perfect example. Isn't it good to avoid that?
You think something like that is going to happen with Endgame?
I mean, inevitably. I don't think it's a matter of if, but just when. I think someone is eventually going to get annoyed enough to force radical change, yes.
You?
I'd rather not force it. All I need is support for a single idea to get things moving.
And you're using yourself as a case study for why things have to change.
I think I am one, whether or not the council likes the idea. You think they're going to make it a habit to pull adults in like this without an outcry? If they get away with it with me, they'll try it again. And at some point it will blow up. Especially since... I gestured around at our location. They're determined to send me out on assignments like this when I've requested not to be. I need to push back harder, but I'm trying to do it in ways that might seem more like a compromise. Vaughn gave me a regretful smile, probably unsure how to respond to that because it was true. After sending me on a first assignment, the council was more comfortable sending me out on other assignments now. It felt like a tacit indication they were keeping me in the combat division, knowingly against my wishes now. That sense of being the frog in a boiling pot was intensifying. I thought I understood better now why Magnus was so certain I could be, or would, be a catalyst for change. The more the council pushed me, the more I was determined to push back. I wasn't okay with being ignored. But I was trying to avoid an angry confrontation or a legal battle or anything more explosive. For now, anyway. I kicked a large stone, watching it skitter across the broken pavement. Are we sure we're actually going to find any evidence of a dramatic smuggling ring here, by the way? I'm starting to have my doubts. Oh, right. I remember why we were here now. Whose route was that? Was that Caleb's? When it was an ambush and it was not a smuggling ring? Or it could have been Magnus's route. Maybe it was Magnus's route. It was one of the endgame routes, obviously. I just can't remember which one.
I'm sure we'll find something. If we search the right subdome. Asteri is a hotspot for that kind of activity since it has closer ties with Delphine and direct access to the night side. Lots of illicit communities here, if you will.
Yeah, Caleb mentioned neo-humans earlier.
Among others. Though it's not like they're the only people who lurk around in domes like this. There are many people on this planet who'd like to live off-grid.
So I've heard. It would be easier if we just searched with Sci, you know.
Seems like a good way to alert people we're here if they happen to have Psi detectors around.
Meh.
We're trying to avoid a confrontation for your sake, Morgan.
Yeah,
Vanessa, Morgan, we have encountered hostile individuals. Your assistance is requested.
Vaughn and I looked at each other.
Lousy timing, Ari. Get your asses over here.
I tensed as Vaughn shuffled closer. I had little time to think about what was happening. Ari and Caleb were in a nearby building. There were others there, too.
Stick close to me. You are not ready for a fight, Morgan. If you have to do anything, do it from a distance.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this was Caleb's route now because I went and helped Vaughn instead of following Caleb's orders. So that kind of makes me think, wait, it was Caleb's route.
Drop rocks on them, do whatever you have to. Don't get close.
Got it. This was why I didn't want to be out here. But I didn't have time to lament the situation. I frantically got us both to where I'd located Ari and Caleb. We appeared in a building nearby, and Vaughn pushed me behind her with a grimace. Unfortunately, it wasn't as easy as just cowering behind her and avoiding being seen, because there were a lot of people.
We stumbled on them. Seems like they have a bishop they were using to hide from Ari's searches, so they took us by surprise.
I barely heard the explanation over the communication channel as I threw a shield up between Vaughn, myself, and people already converging on us. I flinched as weapons fire slammed into it. In fact, every time something hit my shield, it felt like it was hitting me. I had worked on shields with Ari a little, but it hadn't been a focus, and I'd never experienced something actively trying to break it before.
I'm going to need you to lower that shield and let me through in a moment. I hate fighting in close places. Unfortunately, you're going to have to keep that Psi of yours under control. No big attacks this time. We don't want to bring the whole place down on top of us. Your Psi bursts have too wide a damage range for this place, so just keep the shields up and run away if anyone comes at you. Punch them in the face if they get too close.
Got it. One thing they had told me early during training was that assignments often did not go as planned, and that thinking and responding on your feet was critical. I didn't think that was my forte, as I tended to analyze things thoroughly before acting. So I was nervous standing behind Vaughn, waiting for the right moment to lower the shield. Nervous and ashamed that I was hiding behind her when I was supposed to be the strongest person here, even though I knew it was an experience issue rather than a strength one. Seconds later, I released the shield so Vaughn could dart forward into the fray. Bishop or not, I'd been told she fought more like a rook, and seeing it firsthand was stressful. I raised the shield again, flinching as someone else shot at me. I wish I had the focus to protect myself and monitor everyone else with my Psi, but it was chaos, and I was just trying to keep myself shielded for now. Why am I even here? As soon as Vaughn was away from me, someone else took the opportunity of me being alone to attack. Why are there so many of them? I saw the guy, a rook, coming, and my mind went blank, except for the thought that I was not ready for this yet. He launched himself at me, punching the shield hard enough I felt it rattle through me. In that moment, there were two feelings at once. Panic, yes. But frustration, mostly. Frustration that the council had put me in the situation. That they had elected to ignore my wishes and force me to be a soldier when this wasn't me. When I didn't want to be here. Frustration that I felt I could do nothing, be of no help. And then that frustration turned to anger because, of course I couldn't. I shouldn't even be here. That anger exploded outwards as a whirl of hot Psi and my shield shattered. It whipped straight at the attacker, causing him to stagger back, but not fall. The wall behind me trembled and dust showered down, reminding me Vaughn had said to keep my abilities in check. I took a breath and reined it in as the rook rushed at me. I tried to just remember what Caleb taught me, threading Psi into both arms and legs. I blocked the first punch and threw one of my own, trying desperately to stay focused and not panic. Don't think, just act. There wasn't time to analyze, I kept reminding myself. Just focus on responding. What followed was, later, a blurry memory that was little more than a smear of color and emotion. The details faded, but I knew I'd held my own for far too short a time. Real fights were not like sparring matches where everyone pulled their punches and shouted warnings and directions at you. The man's fist connected with my cheek when I failed to block a punch. My head snapped back, and I went straight to the ground, vision going dark as pain exploded in my face. I was almost too stunned to shield the kick that followed. Half panicked, and half remembering what the others had taught me, I got back to my feet in a much clumsier way than Ari had showed me when I learned how to fall weeks ago. I'm glad we had that training session. I lunged at the guy, both enhancing my arms and legs, as well as erecting a shield between my elbow and his face. I released a small burst of Psi at the same time I made contact with him, a trick one of the junior agents taught me. It was enough to make him stagger backwards before another flash of movement caused me to yelp and scramble away. Caleb slammed into him from the side and took him to the ground. I heard them scuffling, but my eyes were watering too much for it to be more than a fuzzy tangle of white and black. Someone else was running toward us, a non-Esper this time. I flung a hand toward them, sending a blast of Psi that way. They went tumbling away, slamming into a nearby pillar. Face throbbing and ears buzzing, my entire field of vision felt like it narrowed. Blood was roaring in my ears, and I couldn't hear anything over the sound of my heartbeat. I didn't realize that the air was practically vibrating with my frantic sigh until I felt Ari's hand on my shoulder and his quiet voice saying to calm down because the assailants were retreating. Thanks, Ari. The backup teams were going to round them up. I jolted with the realization that I was teetering on the edge of losing control and bit the inside of my cheek hard to get myself to focus on reining it in. The buzz of voices faded back as Ari talked me down and got me taking deep breaths. Oh, Ari, I miss you so much. You're so good at this. He said something about structural integrity, and I thought he was worried about me bringing another building down with us inside it.
Get this guy out of here and help the others round up everyone who got away. Don't let a single one of them escape. Find out where their friends are, and if there's any contraband here we need to gather up. I don't care if they refuse. Find a way to make them answer then.
I flinched at the sound of his shouting.
Morgan!
She elbowed an annoyed-looking Ari out of the way to get a look at my face and check me over. I could barely see her worried expression. Man, YUU is going to have a field day with you guys when he sees what condition she's in. Like, what happened?
Damn it! I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have stayed close to you. Oh my god, are you okay?
Vaughn, please stop poking my face. That hurts.
He hit you! I can't believe that bastard hit you!
I felt on the verge of collapsing, until Caleb elbowed his way closer too.
What the hell were you doing, Morgan? Did you forget everything we taught you? Stop shouting at her! What the hell is your problem? My problem is she's a damn queen rank, and that guy shouldn't have landed a hit. This is the first time she's been in a proper fight in her life. It wasn't her fault. And what would she have done if he tried to do more than punch her? I'm the one who told her not to use her cybers here because they're too dangerous in close quarters. You should make sure she can control them better. You should make sure you don't get ambushed.
These guys. They're just worried. They were so worried about her getting hurt, and then she got hurt, and so now they're just yelling at everything. And Ari's like, you absolute muppets. This is why Ari is best boy. I tried to tune them out because they were arguing over me and because they were worried, but I didn't have the emotional fortitude at the moment to be a calm referee.
Morgan, are you alright?
Getting a headache. And not from being punched.
We need to get you back to Core Solaris. The swelling is becoming worrying. Get her back to medical. We'll clean up here. Just stay there with her.
No one else is going for immediate treatment, though. They all stopped and looked my way when I pointed that out. There was a bit of a tremor in my voice, but I felt strangely calm, almost disconnected. Vaughn's arm is damaged. Caleb is bleeding. Ari...
Honey, we're used to this. That's why.
I'm going to have to get used to it, too. The council is determined to throw me into these kinds of situations, and... I swallowed hard, all too aware of the sudden painful lump. My point is that there's still work to do, right? You can't always give me special treatment.
Just get your ass to... Caleb, shut it. No one needs your shitty attitude right now.
Good on you, Vaughn. She shot him a glare as she wrapped her arm around my shoulders and pulled me a little further from the others.
Morgan, are you okay? You seem a little... off.
I'm not okay, no. I think I'm going to need time to think about all this. But for now, it's freaking me out that you're all so worried about what is a minor injury. Is it because I'm new? Because you don't think I can handle this? Because I look like I'm about to have a breakdown? I don't know why, but it just bothers me. Because if you don't think I can do this, but the council is determined to make me do it, what does that mean? I don't want to be here on missions like this, but it's frightening to think that I can't, even if I need to. Even if I'm going to be made to. And that's confusing, but I don't have time to think about it all, and...
Okay.
Her arm went around my head as she gently pulled it to her shoulder, stifling my voice.
I'm sorry. I don't want to scare you by being worried. Caleb's stupidity is contagious, that's all. We probably need to talk to you about it when we get back.
She pulled away, holding me by the shoulders as she studied my face.
It's not about capability, okay? Experience is important for things like this, and you are new. We're also protective of the junior agents when they go out for the first time, so we're not just coddling you. You aren't a junior agent, but you're kind of in that same space. Also, I don't want to scare you, but I don't think you realize your injury is worse than a minor cut on Caleb's face or some damage to an artificial arm. That rook hit you hard, and you need to have this checked. We're not babying you. Understand?
I nodded, not fully trusting myself to speak.
So get back to Corsolaris and get checked. We'll wrap up here.
More nodding. Fawn is really good in this situation too. Just very, like when she's not freaking out with Caleb, just like, let me reassure you, but you gotta listen to me, honey. You're hurt, okay? We want to make sure you're not seriously injured. Just go back for now. It's gonna be okay.
I'll see you in a bit.
She waved Ari over. He didn't speak as he set his hand on my shoulder. Thanks. And we were standing in a corridor just outside the medical ward, my throat still painfully tight. My emotions were in turmoil and I was verging on tears, but I pushed that aside as Ari led me into the medical wing to get treated. Hey, we have a rooftop here. That's nice. Treatment didn't take long. After I'd come to endgame, I received a bio expansion to my nanosystem, which helped enhance my body's natural healing ability, so that was useful. That said, apparently my cheekbone was fractured. Bone couldn't be regenerated as easily as soft tissue, so it would still take some time to recover. Even then, it was still not that big of a deal as far as injuries were concerned. Everyone was more concerned about my mental state, which I supposed was fair. The shakiness had subsided, and now I just felt a bit detached from it all. At least I could think about it logically now. I wish I could have stayed more detached during the fight. It was easy enough to think about what I should have done, though. Less easy to do the right thing in the moment. They'd given me 3 days of leave. They were that concerned about me, I guess. Eventually, I found my way to a small flat rooftop area where I could look out over the city and think. It was a nice place to be away from everyone else. That had been a monumental failure. It showed how the training I'd received so far left me woefully unprepared for even mild danger. On the one hand, it was logical in every sense of the word. I did not want to be here. It was not something I'd prepared myself for. And I had barely enough training to even count as training. I don't think we should have expected anything but this outcome from my first confrontation. I still felt frustrated beyond belief. Had I been hurt because I lacked skill in training? Or just because my heart wasn't in it from the beginning? I gripped the railing and leaned back, tipping my head to the false sky overhead. False sky, but real clouds passing over it. It felt like there was a metaphor in there, but I was too tired to figure out what it might be. Fair.
Were you not told to rest?
I am resting.
We thought you'd be in your flat. Took us forever to find you.
You're all espers. Caleb aside, I have no idea why it would take you and Ari more than half a minute to locate me.
What the hell does that mean? Your sphere is notoriously lacking, Caleb. Even you know that.
Damn.
I don't think I asked you. My apologies. Your question was directed at no one in particular, so I assumed you were genuinely confused.
I don't think Ari really assumed that, but we're gonna go with it anyway. A very slight smile came to my lips as Vaughn joined me at the railing.
Hey, you okay?
Yeah, just needed to clear my head a little.
Today was rough, huh?
Yeah. For a moment, no one spoke, and the four of us just stood in a row looking at the view.
Listen, I'm sorry about shouting at you back there in hysteria, Morgan. None of that was your fault, and I shouldn't have ever let anyone get that close. I felt like shit for letting you get hit.
I know, it's okay, man. I understand you. So you shouted at me for it? Look, that's as good of an apology as you're gonna get. Just accept it. He gave me a sour look, then sighed in defeat because, well, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I suppose it's all right. You probably would have shouted even more if I knocked another building on you.
If you didn't get us all out first, I sure as hell would have. You could have retreated today, Morgan. None of us would have blamed you for that.
I didn't think about it, honestly. Everything happened so fast, and I suppose that after all the training, fighting back felt more natural. I guess being taught to fight back instills a sense that it's expected.
What is expected is that you analyze the situation and choose the best course of action. If that is retreat, so be it.
I'm not sure how much analyzing I was doing, if I'm being honest.
Perhaps that is understandable. It's easy to criticize, but when we put into perspective your level of training and experience, we can't expect you to handle a physical confrontation like the rest of us. Listen, I know I panicked a little earlier. I hope you realize it's not that I don't have faith in you, it's just... This little confrontation wasn't a big deal in the grand scheme of things, but it reminded me of a consistent issue we had with Sylvia.
Sylvia Visser. People didn't mention her too much. It was almost like the subject was taboo. Given what happened to her, I understood why. Aside from you talking about her the one time, it felt like everyone else danced around it.
People treated Sylvia like she was invincible. Like no one could touch her because she was a queen rank and they're the strongest. And even she started to believe it. That she was a queen, so she could always stand her ground. Always should. That she shouldn't retreat or back down because she was supposed to be the strongest. Certain labels come with an enormous burden of responsibility, but that burden is not always valid. It can be easy to forget that.
She swallowed hard, and her words cut off as she looked down at the city below us, seemingly unable to continue.
When you elected not to retreat, it caused us to pause and consider if we had begun to impose that sort of outlook on you, by virtue of how we have approached your training.
I like the analytical one the most. That it's nothing you guys have done. It's just this place and what they expect. This is why we need a revolution. It's not the three of you. It's the fact of being here at all. The fact of why I'm here. I mean, the idea that I'm here because of my potential, and if I wasn't here, I'd have been acquired by someone else because of my potential. Or murdered because of my potential. The fact it's been a struggle to get into the research division because of my potential. I'm not here because I'm an Esper. I'm here because I'm a queen rank, and that has been pounded into me from the start. But not by any of you, per se. If anything, you're caught in the same system that forces that mindset onto all Espers. Particularly those who are higher ranked or have more potential. I mean, you're all here for the same sort of reason, and none of you retreated for the same reason, despite being outnumbered. I know you've been trained and all that, but also, none of you really asked to be trained, right? Have any of you even questioned your place on the guard, or did you all just go where you were told to go? Because that's what talented agents do. This is where talented agents reside. Damn. Food for thought, guys. Also, sidebar, I love that we're just having like a quiet moment with our guard because these are some of my favorite moments in Endgame and there was like, all too few in other routes, so I like that we're having a lot of time with our guard, just chatting about, this is a kind of messed up place, don't you think? So, kudos. They were all quiet for a long time when I said that.
Well, it's not like you're wrong. This place likes to drill it into every single one of us. We owe our lives to society because we were born special. You think you're fighting against it, or at least aren't as wrapped up in it as the cadets. And then you find yourself yanking some kid off the street one day because you were told to. And you realize you fell for it completely.
I thought we established I'm not a child and I'm only a couple of years younger than you. He smirked at me, giving my head that characteristic pat squeeze he liked to do. Then he groaned and leaned forward, resting his elbows on the railing.
Oh, if I could go back, I'd never have dragged you here. We were under orders to drag her here. If we had disobeyed, she would have been dragged somewhere less pleasant. Unless you believe she would make a better member of the Mafia than Endgame.
I mean, it wasn't all bad. I expected a quip from Caleb, but he didn't even crack a smile.
Maybe in another life we'd have had enough backbone to drag ourselves off somewhere too.
Dang, thinking of Jack, I know you, Caleb. You're thinking of Jack with that comment.
Man, this conversation is depressing as hell. Didn't we say we were going to come cheer her up?
It's the thought that counts?
But I guess all this is why you're trying to shake things up with those ideas of yours, huh? Ideas of yours? What are you concocting now?
Why are you saying that like I've ever concocted anything while here? He smirked at me and straightened.
Spill. I admit, I too am curious about what ideas Vaughn is referring to.
It's just something I was talking to Magnus about, I guess. About the current way espers are treated, and the way I was more or less forced to come here despite the dubious legal claim Endgame has for forcing that issue. And the short version is that I'm writing up a proposal for some changes based on a few ideas I had. Caleb let out a short bark of laughter that rolled into a surprisingly genuine one.
Of course you're writing a proposal. That's such a you thing to do, I'm not even surprised. What the hell kind of ideas do you have? Planning to give them to the council?
I just don't think things can or should continue like this. With F-Class becoming a bigger portion of the population, I don't think Endgame can keep forcing every interesting ranked esper to come here and go through this experience.
Not that I disagree, but what's your solution?
I don't have any one solution. I have some concepts. Things that seem obvious but weren't implemented, probably because there was no need at the time Endgame was founded. But things have changed. The fact that there is a single Esper Academy on this planet is mind-blowing to me. Endgame needs to outsource its training so students don't have to come here. I know the Council wants people at the tower so they can encourage them into the forces, but creating additional academies and training centers will actually expand Endgame's reach, and help them identify new espers in places that may otherwise go unnoticed.
That sounds like the opposite of what I thought you'd want.
I think you're wrong. Proximity to Core Solaris is proportional to how likely someone is to actually want to join Endgame's forces. Remember, there's no law stating people have to, just clever manipulation.
Endgame won't do anything that will decrease their presence. You think they haven't carefully thought about the Academy situation before?
Actually, we don't know when the last time a serious evaluation was done, Caleb. But I'm betting it's been a while. Maybe before the fairy phenomenon started to take off. Things are different now, and they're continuing to change fast. That's why I think they need to expand and dilute the Esper forces. Create a sort of halfway point for people like me. A reserve corps, an outsourcing affiliate program. Both?
A what?
I know Endgame has a reserve corps of retired espers, but I think it would be beneficial to expand that. So people who don't want to be full-time agents can, perhaps, be placed in reserve status for emergencies. But otherwise continue to live normally. I might not have hidden I was an esper if I had that option. And I also think a special distinction to allow people to remain civilians but work as Endgame-affiliated esper consultants is another option. I don't like the idea of expanding Endgame's control, but in the current situation, I think expanding reach while weakening the overall connection might help. Especially since we know there are plenty of people who try to avoid detection even if it's dangerous. This could make it so they don't have to.
You said Magnus is in support of these ideas.
I haven't shared these exact ideas with him, but Magnus thinks my perspective as an outsider might be valuable for reevaluating how things are done. He thinks things should change, just like I do.
Thinking about this is how you clear your head.
Thinking of solutions to problems helps me stop stressing about those problems, yes.
Well, don't think about it too much. You're supposed to be taking some time off.
It's not that much work to just think about stuff.
It's mental work. Stress. Caleb's right. You should go back to your place and curl up with a good book for a while.
Well, hello. Thank you for joining us.
Surprisingly, Vanessa and Cale are offering sound advice for a change, despite their general lack of medical expertise. It would be wise to avail them of it.
I see you're off the clock, Doc. I thought you were busy working for a while. What gives? You? When did you get here?
He's been standing by the entrance watching us for several minutes.
Ah.
What the hell are you doing here? What do you think? I heard Morgan sustained a facial injury and came to check on her. Did you sustain a brain injury at the same time? Don't trust your medical team. The medical staff is more than adequate. I am here for personal reasons, of course. Personal? Didn't I warn you about this guy, Morgan? Ugh, disgusting.
Now, don't be salty that she went for you instead of you, Caleb, okay? You had your chance already.
You know they've like been on dates and things, right? What? Since when? Morgan, please. Trust me on this one. You can do better.
You know, I don't know about that. I've been through like all the routes, and this guy's making a solid run for number 1, Caleb, so I don't know if you're right about that one. Now that you had told me about their relationship, the petulant little brother energy Caleb was exuding was just funny.
And who in this organization do you believe is superior to me as a partner? Surely not you. Literally everyone. Even Magnus.
Oh! That is uncalled for! Wow, how low do you think of this man? Damn.
If you believe Magnus Ulrich is better than me, perhaps we really do need to check for a brain injury.
Why is everyone here? They all love her so much, it's great.
Ew! How could you? That's so mean! Oh my god, when did you get here? You're all terrible. I stopped by to check on our dear little queen, and you all seem to be having fun, so I was going to join in. But now I see you were just standing here gossiping and being disrespectful towards your leader. I am truly hurt. I should have you all reprimanded.
Okay. I think I'm going back to my flat now.
But I just arrived. I believe that's why she's leaving.
Damn! Got him. I'm just a little tired, that's all. And I came out here to be alone.
Morgan, are you alright? I heard what happened.
I'm fine. I've been through worse since my abilities came to light. I'm not distraught enough to start a rebellion yet, if that's what you were hoping for. He's like, oh, we're just talking about this out in the open. Okay.
A rebellion? I have no idea what you mean.
Sure. But I appreciate the concern, really.
If you wish to return to your flat, I'll walk you there. And the rest of the Queen's Guard. I assume you've all paid a visit to the infirmary. Caleb? Why the hell are you singling me out, you? Unless that brain injury has crossed the threshold from a mere joke at your expense to reality, you know full well why I've chosen to single you out. Caleb, Vanessa, and I all stopped by the infirmary together earlier. None of us sustained as substantial an injury as Morgan. Very good.
With a soft laugh, I moved past him and towards the door. I'll see you all later, okay? And really, I'm fine. But thank you for stopping by to keep me company.
No worries. Want me and Mara to bring you dinner later?
I can manage, but thanks. I waved to them as you and I left them on the rooftop. Magnus followed us down the narrow stairs that open into a wider corridor. He trotted along beside you in silence. Trot, 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 trot.
Dare I ask if you have something to discuss with Morgan, or if you've taken up stalking as a new hobby?
Oh, you. Stop trying to pick a fight with me. Shall I pull that brain injury line on you as well?
What did you want to discuss, Magnus?
Am I not allowed to merely be concerned?
You're allowed. I just don't think that's all it is.
Honestly, none of you have any faith in me whatsoever. It's so cruel.
I just think you wouldn't have come all the way here simply to ask if I'm alright. You could send a message for that.
True, perhaps. But then I do take every opportunity to escape my office, you know. I am, however, concerned about your well-being. Despite what you may think, I'm neither heartless nor unconcerned for the agents in this organization.
I didn't think you were either of those things, all things considered. I just observe you tend to have more complex reasons than you let on. If you really want to know if I'm ready to start a rebellion on the basis of the council being indirectly responsible for my getting punched in the face today, then no. Not yet.
What a pity.
I cast a sidelong look Yu's way. He simply raised his eyebrows in return. He didn't seem all that surprised by the mention of a rebellion. And I knew he was smart enough to know that wasn't just a joke. Was there anything else?
I suppose now that you've been on a proper field assignment that didn't go as planned, that put you in harm's way. I was curious if your position has shifted at all. It's clear it hasn't shifted you toward a more dramatic stand, but are you at least less reluctant to help me now?
It was never about wanting to help you or not. But I'm going to stick with suggesting opportunities. For now.
The proposal you mentioned to the others just now.
Yes.
Oh my, a proposal? And you've even mentioned it to other people.
Unlike you, I actually trust others in this organization.
Damn. Already? How benevolent of you.
It's more astonishing that you don't.
It's equally astonishing Magnus has been transparent enough for you to observe that fact. Not that I intend to discount your observational skills, but how fascinating that he lowers his guard around you to that degree.
He feels a bond between us. I glanced at you, then back at Magnus. I had somewhat noticed it, but Magnus seemed to lower his guard a little around you as well. Yep. You would be like the next person he would be most likely to trust, you. Despite how they antagonized each other, they really appeared to be friends, though I wasn't sure either of them would willingly call themselves that. When Magnus didn't ask for details on what proposal, I assumed he'd been listening in on the prior conversation as well, which wouldn't surprise me. But also might be an indication I should take more care with how I talked about these sorts of things. And where.
I'm curious how you intend to win the council over. Proposals are easy to ignore.
They are, but I think there are circumstances right now that may make them more amenable to opportunities. The difficult thing is always to get conversations going. Once they start up, if you can get them to snowball, the council will have to take notice. Maybe my abject failure to be of any use today can serve as an example of why thrusting civilians into endgame is a bad idea too. Though I doubt it.
As a tangentially related subject, I had something else I wanted to tell you. Heidi Faber has requested an evaluation for the purposes of obtaining a Psi expansion.
Already?
She believes that your tutelage has improved the quality of her Psi substantially. It's likely premature, and even if she passes the evaluation, the expansion is unlikely to be approved. But I thought you may wish to know in advance. But it's difficult to say if it will work in your favor or not. On one hand, the prospect of another queen rank will surely diminish the significance of your role here. However, assuming she passes her evaluation, we have to consider that without you here it might not have been possible.
I was unaware you were tutoring Miss Faber.
It was sort of off the cuff, honestly. And kind of a dare. She was trying to pick a fight, and I challenged her to work with me for a week alongside my other training to prove I could help her. I think she would have declined if not for the fact that the rest of the guards saw it and she felt pressured to accept. And I guess she actually found it helpful, so we kept going with our sessions. I guess it was my way of trying to mend fences, so to speak.
Attempting to mend fences you didn't break by helping someone who chose not to get along with you.
I just don't have the patience to fight with someone on an ongoing basis.
It speaks to your skill outside of combat situations.
One hopes. We turned a corner, and there were Mara and Odette coming towards us. Well, I think your time out of the office is over, Magnus. Bye-bye. Magnus sighed and stopped, giving me a regretful smile.
It appears I'm being retrieved. I'll look forward to your proposal. I'm uncertain how that will evolve, but we can only try for now if that's your strategy.
It is. For now. I would try to work with the council rather than confronting them, but we'd have to see how long that lasted. It would all depend on their response. At least you can say you tried. You didn't freak out immediately, so... Magnus left us there, and the moment we were alone, YUU moved closer. To my surprise, his hands went straight to my face. I half expected an examination on the spot, but instead he cupped my cheek.
I will not ask if you are all right, but I am concerned.
I smiled a little, tilting my head and covering his hand with mine. I appreciate that, on both counts.
Let's get you back to your room now. You need to rest, if not physically, then mentally. If you stay in any public space, you're likely to be swarmed again, since people are obviously incapable of letting you be. Even by myself, though I'd like to think I am, of course, an agreeable exception.
Of course you are. The most agreeable exception. He slipped an arm around my waist and guided me towards the residential wing. Stop, that is so cute. Want to have dinner with me?
Only with adherence to a strict rule of no work discussions today. I believe you have earned an evening free of them. Yours and mine.
I wanted to know how your project is going, though.
It is not progressing well. I would be happy to discuss it with you in brief at another time. However, not today.
All right. Not today.
Good.
We managed to get back to my flat without being swarmed again, though I didn't really expect to be. I offered to order dinner, but you cooked instead. While I watched, he can cook too. This man is perfect in every way. How can he exist? I only got a single disapproving look from him about the lack of a variety of healthy foods. Then he sighed and said his kitchen was hardly better, which made me laugh. Good. Dinner was passable. Marginally less so than my cooking, which I made sure to tell him because he'd made fun of my tea before. And I believed in petty revenge, something he observed with great amusement. Later, we were curled up on the sofa together with my head on his shoulder, chatting about definitely not work. I pulled away suddenly, surprised by something he just said. He was far too amused by the incredulous stare. You go dancing? You dance. He dances. No, there's nothing left. I don't think there's anything left. I'm gone. He laughed and tugged me back towards him.
I should greatly like to remark on the sheer incredulity in your voice, but I realize it may seem unlike me to enjoy something of that sort. In truth, early in all our careers, we found solace in going out together. At the time, we viewed it as merely having fun, but upon further recollection, many of our attempts to have fun were the behaviors of children trying to cope with having so much burden placed upon them. Even so, it sparked something of a personal fascination for me regarding the relationship humans have with music. Not just our enjoyment of it or the history of its development, but also the way it affects us from an emotional and physiological standpoint. I am not an exception, of course. Learning various styles of dance along the way was simply a side effect.
My relationship with music is listening to it when I study. My relationship with dancing is non-existent.
Perhaps I can show you sometime.
Now?
I question whether showing you how to dance goes against the goal of having you rest. However, music activates nearly every region in the brain, including those involved with mood regulation and the release of neurotransmitters such as dopamine.
He slid from under me and stood, offering me his hand. I can't believe that all along everyone's like, Caleb's a good dancer. He goes clubbing. He's the dancing boy. Never once danced. Never once took us dancing. This guy's like, oh, by the way, I dance. 5 seconds later, would you like to dance right now in your living room? Huh? Fine. I am fine with it.
Indeed, the amygdala is often inhibited when listening to music, reducing stress, fear, and other negative emotions. And since music activates the motor processing parts of the brain, we might as well put it to better use than simple foot tapping.
In other words, it's fun.
Yes, I suppose that is an easier way to say it.
He swept me closer, letting one hand slide around my waist to my back. A notification popped up in my head, and I accepted it to have a dreamy waltz begin. Music just plays in your head. That is pretty cool. One of Yu's hands found mine, and he pressed our palms together, wrapping his fingers over my knuckles.
I would deeply enjoy showing you a few other styles. However, perhaps a slow waltz is better suited to tonight.
My flat wasn't huge, but there was a large enough space that we had a little room to move around. I knew the basics of waltzing, but actually following his steps without treading on his feet was a little trickier than I thought. After the third time, he just laughed and nudged me a little closer as he pressed his head to mine. They're perfect. Your Honor, this is my, look, they're perfect. I have nothing else to say. Case closed. I rest my case. They're perfect. Ugh.
I am glad I am a physician capable of treating my own injuries.
I told you I wasn't good at this. His warm breath fluttered over my ear as he laughed again, sending a pleasant shiver through me before his lips grazed the edge of it. His palm, flat against my lower back, pressed me closer to him so our bodies were touching. But he moved his head back enough for our eyes to meet before he kissed me. I smiled against his mouth. Do I get to hear about how kissing affects the brain one day? I assume you've looked into that as well.
Once or twice. But perhaps that conversation is for another evening.
Our lips met again. His mouth lingered against mine like a delicate touch of flame. His fingers traced a light, tingling line up my spine, causing a sigh to escape me. You met my gaze again, eyes soft and smile a little regretful.
I should very much like to stay longer tonight, but I fear I'm going to have to leave soon. You need rest, and I, unfortunately, have another full day. But thank you for allowing me to distract myself by keeping you company.
You never have to thank me for that. I'll distract you as much as you want. Probably even more than you want if you're not careful.
I'm adept at not being distracted when I don't wish to be. But I admit you have a tendency to make me wish to be distracted whether or not I need it.
Well, if you ever want a distraction, let me know. I'm very good at it. Our dance had somewhat reduced itself to us swaying slightly to the music, but I wasn't sure whether YUU was just trying to preserve his feet at that point. Sadly, he was true to his word and separated from me after a few more moments. He wasn't the sort to linger over goodbyes, but we shared another kiss in my living room, then a last one at the door before he left a little while later.
So it's such a smoochy boy. I love that.
When we finally parted, it was with a promise on my end to please get some sleep.
Good night, Morgan.
Same to you. One last kiss! He's so smoochy! And he was gone. I was yawning frequently by the time I finished getting ready for bed. It didn't change anything that happened, but it was still a pleasant way to end the night. I lay awake only a short while before drifting off with a smile on my face. All the stressors and thoughts about the day were lurking just in the background. They'd be waiting for me in the morning. I knew that, but I slept peacefully in spite of it.